Welcome to The Board, a podcast series on mechanical keyboards for the mechanical keyboard community by the mechanical keyboard community. How's it going, Kevin?
It's going pretty good. Good Saturday so far. Got my coffee and water.
And you don't have
Ready
any
to...
allergies.
Yeah, definitely a lot better today, at least. I've been taking a lot of medicine and being super diligent about the times I'm taking it. And I think it's helping. There's actually on the news, there's like I know news is ridiculously fake, but they talked about how like allergies this year are significantly worse. And I think it has to do with the fact that California got a lot of rain this year.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's just blooming even harder.
Yeah, well, I mean, global warming and temperature variations are certainly throwing natural cycles out as well. Now,
How about those coral reefs in Australia?
Well, there's a lot of bleaching going on and dying of the Great Barrier Reef. Now, this is actually a very special episode today because we're also doing a live stream simultaneously. So I want to give a massive shout out to the guys who are currently watching. So there's Armando, there's R White, there's Outrage Pudding, there's Boom Boy, and Mendez has joined in. So thank you for coming along and checking this out. Now, today, we're going to be doing a couple of different things. As usual, of course, we've got a topic list, but we've actually also got a bunch of giveaways. So first and foremost, of course, is we're going to have to do our 400 subscriber giveaway to YouTube. And then we've got a couple of other bits and pieces as well that's come in through the week. So look forward to getting that underway. Yeah. Just checking out some of the comments that's happening at the moment.
Hello to everybody in the chat.
So
Armando
Kevin's
and
hanging out in the
Mendez.
chat as a mod, and Outrage Pudding and Boom Boy also have mod privileges too. So mind your manners, of course, and because this is YouTube, we're going to try and keep our language down if possible. If possible, we'll see
I
how
will
we
not
go.
stand for disorder.
And hi, Jay Nicemiz. Thank you very much for coming along. So I guess everybody is really just hanging out and they want to check out and find out who has actually won the Movember keycap giveaway for our 400 subscribers. And I figured, for those who might actually be watching this video later on, we'll do it right at the start, and that way they don't have to endure the entire episode to find out who it is. And if you're listening to the podcast, well, you can listen to it and then you can stop or whatnot and just keep on listening. Now, first of all, for those who are actually on our live stream YouTube channel, I'm just going to pop out the keycap that we're going to be talking about and giving away, and it is this little fella. It's a Ragcap Movember 2016 Artisan in the green, in the Kelly green. It's a lovely, lovely green. So all you had to do was actually just fill out the form with a couple of details, and let's have a look at the number of responses we actually got. So at this point in time, we had 69 responses because the first row is actually the header. And there's some pretty entertaining words of wisdom from our fans out there. Some things that I like in here. Once you go clack, you never go back. Get rubber on your stem, it's safer this way. Of course, there's classics like be excellent to each other. Rock on.
Classic. I've never heard that.
And we've got a good one. Fingers melt ABS. That shine. So
Hey, you take that back.
what? Fingers melt ABS.
ABS is great.
And then, of course, there's some pretty big essays in here as well, which, of course, I'm not going to read. So, of course, in order to be fair, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go to random.org, and you'll see up here in the corner, we've got between 2 and 70, and we're going to roll that, generate to see who has won the keycap. So, would you like to give me a drum roll, Kevin? And Number nine. Number nine, number nine. So, row number nine goes to ZMD, who is on our mechanical keyboards and YouTube. And his comment, which is actually quite adequate for this community, is RIP Wallet. So, please get in contact with me. You can contact me through private message on Reddit at /u/flerad, spelled FLEHRAD, which of course you would know that, and I'll get this cap to you. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody, for of course supporting our YouTube channel. And right now, I think we've got 435 subscribers. So in the last week, we've actually picked up, I think just on 20 subscribers thereabouts. So I'd probably anticipate still a couple of weeks away before we hit the 500 mark, but of course, you never know. We might actually get there a bit quicker, and then we'll have another Movember cap to give away.
Hype.
Hype, hype,
I
hype.
actually can strongly recommend the Movember caps if you haven't got one yet. They're pretty awesome. I have a pink red one, and I love it.
Love it. Fantastic. All right, so I can shut that down over there. So yeah, I felt today was a bit of an opportunistic moment, really, to have a bit of fun and do a bit of a live stream and get interactive with everybody in the community. Only because, you know, I have a personal celebration to have right now, and I felt, you know, let's have a bit of fun and a bit of partying at the same time. So let's have a look at our topic list, and away we go. What do you think we should start with, Kevin?
Let's talk about the new Keyclack website.
New
Sounds pretty cool.
Website.
That's pretty big news.
It's pretty big news. So Jay Chan has been kind of a little bit absent lately, and the reason why was because he was actually moving offices. Now, have you been to Jay Chan's facilities before?
No, I haven't. We tried to, but it didn't work out with our schedule.
So from all the pictures and everything else that we have kind of seen when he's posted about when he was making cables and when he was on top clack, and you know, you could see his sister in the background going and back and forth and stuff like that. He was basically operating in a very, very small room. I think it was like 9 foot by like 10 foot or something like that, and you know, he was soldering and getting headaches because of the fumes and stuff like that. And Keyclack has grown significantly, of course, in the last 12 months, and he's now actually moved into a much larger space. I just don't know how much larger, and it's come along with a new website. Now, the website's very focused upon group buys, because that is a specialty that Keyclack is really sort of shifting to, facilitating group buys. But of course, there are still other products on Keyclack like switches and kits and artisans and stuff like that as well. Now, I've had a quick look, and it's pretty schmick. And the pictures, the tutorial that he gave as well was really, really cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the new website. It looks clean. I heard that it's better for mobile, so that's a big plus. I know a lot of people just chill and search the internet on their phone. I'm more of a computer person, but the new space should definitely help him. I remember he like posted pictures, and he had something like 10 boxes weighing like 50 pounds each. How could he even fit that in the old office? It's just crazy. And I know when he was doing cables, those take a lot of space to like hang up to dry, because you have to like coil them around like lines, kind of like clotheslines almost. I mean, he must have been really cramped.
Well, yeah, he was. I mean, he had a heat gun, and he had all these soldering irons, and he had all the spools of his cable and stuff like that going on. So, you know,
Packaging material is very voluminous too.
I feel that he was probably encroaching his sister's actual shop space as well, which probably led to them saying, well, hang on, we probably need more space, because obviously if his business was getting bigger and growing, then yeah, everything has to grow with it. Now, I do apologize right now that the street cleaning truck is doing its business outside and making my local streets nice and clean. I don't actually know if you can hear it, but I can definitely hear it through my pickup. So
I can't hear it. I think you're good.
Cool, cool. All right. So of course everybody is very keen to get onto the new KeyClack site and really hammer it to iron out the bugs. But what is actually really cool, I find, for KeyClack is that it's going to be no longer just a one-man show. Now, what do you think? Does he already have somebody in mind, or do you think it's going to be open to the community for them to apply for a position to help KeyClack?
I think that he already has somebody in mind. I don't want to take any guesses because it could just be somebody outside the community, but I just get the feeling like he already has somebody in mind. I might tell you my guess in private like next week and we can see. But,
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of people in the world, Don.
Yes,
I don't know if I pick one.
There is certainly a lot of people in the world. Okay. Now, I actually promised Outrage Pudding that I would say this, and because Gabe actually isn't here, it's going to be even more entertaining to do so. But, Gabe, you have been officially requested by our number one fan, well, self-proclaimed number one fan, but he hasn't really got any, shall I say, active challenges, because we didn't actually get any responses about our game show idea. Now, I'm still actually really
I got one.
You got
from
one?
Super Nemo.
Right.
But he said that he's not sure if he can make it, but that he'd want to.
So I didn't get any response, but I would still love for that to happen. But Gabe, you need to speak more French. So, got to get your dulcet tones speaking the language of love out there for all of our listeners, and melt some hearts, because obviously fingers don't melt ABS, but maybe Gabe's voice in French will. We'll see.
I remember when you did the interview with him, you shouted him out to all the single ladies who like keyboards in Canada and Edmonton.
Well, it didn't work now, did it? Hey, well, so in the chat at the moment, Outrage Pudding is saying that he is the official number one fan, and people are scared of him. And R White says that he's in, so maybe we might be able to get something happening as well, which would be fantastic. Now, of course, while we're actually chatting, you can't see this if you're only listening to the podcast, but I've actually got my little whiteboard here, and I'm just idly doodling away. So if you guys do want me to just randomly sketch crap, you can throw out suggestions and I can do my bad art. It's definitely not as good as Outrage Pudding's work. And I do want to give him a shout out because he's been doing a lot of work in the background for the Sydney 2017 number one meetup, which I'm currently organizing. So thank you very much to Outrage Pudding for doing the banner work that's upcoming, as well as the fact that he's designed the actual meetup cap. Now, while we're talking about meetups, or as such, if you do have a meetup, don't be afraid of letting us know that you want a shout out. Now, there's heaps of meetups happening, but we can't help you promo it if you don't want us to, because in the past we have mentioned other meetups, but they typically are the ones that we've kind of been relatively involved with, in a sense. Either people within the Board Podcast group is actually attending or is involved in organizing, like Yoris example for the European meetup, that kind of thing. But if it's going to be in a country somewhere else, in a location, that we're not potentially going to be directly involved with in some capacity, just let us know and we'll shout it out. Okay?
Not limited to NATO countries.
So, for example, today, now, of course, on the live stream, this is more topical than on the podcast because the podcast is going to be released much later. But the Washington meetup is actually happening today. So, if you're actually in that area and you're checking out this live stream, by all means, head out that way and check it out. And there is actually
a Washington, D.C. meetup.
Sorry, Washington, D.C., not Washington State, which, is the Seattle meetup, which is happening on July 22nd, and I'm very sad that I can't actually make it. But to compensate for that, I'm, of course, holding the Sydney meetup on July the 8th. Now, I've actually been doing quite a lot of asking around, and I said this actually to one of our event sponsors, and I'm happy to say it out loud here in that I feel kind of uncomfortable going to people and asking them for things donating to meetups, only because like that's just how I am. But because I'm organizing the meetup, and the meetup's not just for me, what I'm asking for isn't for me, it's for people who are in Sydney or who are attending the meetup who come to Sydney, and so it kind of helps me in that way. And I'm actually quite fortunate that a lot of people have said yes. So I'm going to actually say the people who have currently said yes that they're going to help provide something. I don't know what it is that they're going to send because I don't actually have those details and I haven't received anything yet. But for the Australian guys, there is Coscaps, so Cosmosis is going to be sending something. Rama Works, so King Rama is sending something. And the Board Podcast, I'm going to be chucking in a couple of things as well. And then from our international sponsors, we've got One Up Keyboards from Ski with Pete, Idea 23 from Bus Gamer, Jelly Key is getting involved, Jolly Green Giant from Reddit is going to be chucking in a couple of What's the Caps. Now Originative said that they're going to also send us some mod switch packs samplers, which is fantastic. Of course, Outrage Puddings helped us a lot with doing the actual artwork that's involved. Pluggable provided the keyboard that I reviewed that I'm also going to be putting in for the raffle. Hungerwork Studios, so Binge has actually said that he's going to also send us something. I don't know what it is. It might not be a cap, it could be stickers, could be artwork, but you know what? I don't care because the work that he does is amazing. I've spoken to Jay-Chan and he said that Key Clack is going to try and send something as well. Leandrin from Mechanisk is looking to send something, and Jay Godinez, who's been doing those embroidered patches, is also going to be sending some patches too. Now, the last...
Holy shit, that's a lot.
That's a lot, right? But I'm not even done yet because we've got 2 more sponsors. Now, I really want to give this massive, massive, massive shout out to Tay Keyboards because he's been instrumental in that Mistel and Tesoro are coming on board and providing something as well for this meetup. So, massive, massive thank you and shout out both for Mistel and for Tesoro, and of course to Tay Keyboards in managing to help us along and organizing that for us. So, yeah. Now, if you don't come to the meetup, if you don't buy raffle tickets, what that means is for the people who do come, they're going to go home with some seriously nice things, right? So if you want a chance, you got to be in it to win it. Come along, have a great time. It's going to be hopefully a really fun event. So
this is Don. He's like, I don't really like asking for donations, but these 70% of the community have donated, and I'm going to list them out, and there's 30 names.
But the fun thing is, right, like, we're doing this by a raffle system, so essentially you're buying raffle tickets because that's how we're going to generate the cost to pay for the venue hire and the printing of, the banner and the place cards for your keyboards and stuff like that. I'm actually putting money in, of course, for this, but I'm not actually in the raffle for any of these items. So, because there's certain neutrality. And so I at least can say very honestly that I have not asked any of these people for my own personal profit in any way. So, I'm going to be there all day and we're going to be raffling away all these goodies, and it's going to tear my heart to see them walk away with other people. But you know what? That's just the nature of the way that organization works. So there we go. Now, I mentioned Jay Godinez and his embroidered patches. Now, what do you think of these patches?
I think they look pretty good. I like them.
Yeah? Now,
yeah,
what do
I saw them for the first time like this past week actually, but I like their style, and they're iron on, right?
I believe they're iron on, but it doesn't mean that you can't actually sew them on either. So, you can, well, with patches, like any kind of patches, you can do whatever you want with them, right? Yeah? Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the guys have just asked me to do an M10, and this is actually an M10 off the top of my head, and it sucks. Um, I'm sorry, Rama. Um, now, in regards to the patches, Jay Godinez 302 has been incredible because he's also running a giveaway on Reddit, right? Where you just put down a number and you'll get a backpack with a patch. But on top of that, he's also given us, the Board Podcast, 2 of those patches to give away. 2. So this week we're going to give one away, and I want to ask, because it's a patch, and I thought, let's just have a bit of fun with it. Let's go with your best pirate joke. So now you're not going to be able to enter until we actually post the podcast link for this episode. Okay? But I want you to post your best pirate joke, and you can tag Jay Godinez 302 so that he can see all these jokes, right? Hopefully it'll make his day and not kill his inbox. And then he can decide which one of those is actually his favorite joke, and then that person will win one of those patches.
Kill his inbox. Do it. Do it.
I do apologize, Jay Godinez. I didn't actually clear that with him because he actually said, we could figure out however we wanted to do it. But I wanted him to get involved because, I want him to see the community support behind his patches. It's fantastic, So, yeah. What do you think? Where do you think we should go from here now?
A little quick announcement, just because I've been hyped about it in the past, and it's actually been announced this week. DSA Miami Dolch is going to be coming to Mapsdrop in, I think, a day or two, which is pretty cool. It's a Miami Dolch DSA set. We haven't seen any DSA sets in a pretty long time, and I think it has a good style to it and pretty cool novelty keys, especially for like the 1.5 and 1.25 bottom row keys. So definitely check that out if you get the chance to.
Now, can you describe what that actual set looks like?
Yeah, so Dolch it's like a darker gray on the modifiers and then a lighter gray on the alphas, and that's the traditional Dolch, which is from a keyboard called a Dolch Pack, which is it's like a personal terminal computer. And what people have done in the past is they've kind of done like color mixes with them. So there's Sky Dolch, which is it's teal for the legend colors and with the same color scheme. And what's actually happened is somebody made a Miami Dolch set, which is it's like pink sort of magenta for the modifier legends and then teal for the alpha legends. Pretty sure it's that way and not switched the other way. But it's basically a Miami themed Dolch set, so it has like a little bit more subtle of a look rather than in your face Miami. And it also has that classic Dolch style.
Okay, cool. I mean, I know that you really liked that Miami sort of coloring because you wanted that Miami dusk to happen, right? That didn't happen.
Yeah, so there's a set called Miami Dusk, and it's like a OG cherry beige modifiers on lighter color white, basically alpha keys, and with the OG sets it's black legends, but there was like a redo that somebody was considering doing, which had magenta legends on the modifiers and teal legends on the alphas, and he had actually said that he's only going to run it in 60%, and I don't really use 60%, so I'm super disappointed. But it's still like one of my dream sets. So this one it's close to it, and I like Miami. I like teal and pink a lot, so this is definitely a set that appeals to me.
Would he give you permission to actually be able to run that though for a full size if you sort of asked for it?
The thing is, I don't think he wants us to like cut into his 60% sales. Well, the problem is he's expecting 60% to I don't know if he watches our podcast or not, but his expectation is that 60% will put the price point lower, which will reach to more people. But I think the key set was going to sell just fine as a full-size set. I think it's
Well,
really pretty.
I think you could potentially discuss that with him and say, look, let's run the 60% and you can go with how that goes. And then afterwards, we can do, the full size or the extras, kind of like, how they're doing that, the Hyperfuse mod packs, I think, is that the thing that's happening?
Yeah.
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 Right? There's no reason why you can't do, packs later. It's just a different cost factor that you have to consider when you hit MOQs. So
The problem is that then the Miami market will be saturated with these, and I don't think we'll have enough support for a full-size one afterwards.
well, maybe, but it's something that you might want to be able to consider. You never know. I mean, people might miss out in the first round, and then they want to do a second round, right?
Armando just said a very good pirate joke. I really like
But you know what? You better put that in the post because it's going to go to waste here. And I'm not going to read it out loud simply because I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
If you're watching the podcast, go check out that joke.
Is it actually showing on Livestream, by the way? I'm not actually seeing what the feed is. So is the comments on the Livestream?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I see it at least.
All right. Well, no, but as in like, if somebody was watching this on replay, I don't know if it'll show up. That's all.
Oh, does it appear? I think they can see the chat in like if they rewatched a live stream on YouTube, I'm pretty sure they see the chat like as it was happening.
Oh, okay, right. I don't know. I haven't actually checked on ours. So, cool. All right. So now, really, the only other major topic that I definitely want to get through today is actually not even a topic, but it's an errata. I do apologize for what I said last week about Mech Market and bans. So Quakems, who actually currently is no longer a mod, he's sort of moved on from that role, taking a bit of a break as well. And of course, our very own Gabe Gadgeables has moved into one of the vacancies to be a Mech Market mod. But Quakems told me, and I'm very happy to be corrected because, of course, you want to make sure that there's the right information going out there to the community, is that there are temporary bans on Mech Market. However, scammers only get permanent bans. And that was where the confusion was, because obviously that particular user last week said that they only had a temp ban on one of their other accounts, but in reality it was a permaban. So there are temp bans that can go from anywhere from 3 days, 1 week to 2 weeks, and the mods can of course adjust them as they deem necessary. And that's for sort of breaking rules constantly, or just, not doing the right thing, but not being a scammer. Slightly different. So
I think I've done some stuff in the past that could have qualified for a temporary ban.
All right. Well, where do you think we should go from there?
Let's talk about the KK GoFundMe. I think that was pretty big news this week.
Sure. Do you want to give the lowdown on that, the backstory?
Yep. So Gray Ambiance, also known as Gray Chillstep, he is a community member, and he started a GoFundMe to help out Key Collective, who's the maker of a lot of popular artisans, most notably Cosmos, Snackies, Meowcaps. Those are probably the big ones in Furts. And it was it was to help Key Collective out because he had mentioned that he was experiencing financial difficulties, and this was not asked for by him, but it was just community taking it on their. I guess they just wanted to do it. It was their choice to do it, and they wanted to try and help him out. And the way that they were doing it was a donation of $1 to the GoFundMe gave you a raffle ticket, and a bunch of people donated artisans, which were going to be given away through the GoFundMe raffle tickets, I guess. And the artisans that were donated were crazy. There was like Hunger Keys, Cosmos. It was crazy. There was really nice artisans, like thousands of dollars of artisans of just people just donating them to help out.
And also
But
keyboards.
okay, yeah, also keyboards. And I mean, even the vendors, even some of the vendors got involved. And I'm sure like every major vendor would have donated something by the end of the raffle period.
And then
It was
what happened?
everybody was coming together for it. Well, Key Collective had posted that he needed some time to process the situation, and he decided that despite the kindness of everybody and their willingness to do it, that he is not really comfortable accepting the donations from people, and the giveaway was canceled. So it was a good example of the community coming together to help him out, and he's very deserving. I mean, his prices on artisans are pretty unwavering. The first snack key sale, just for everybody's perspective, he sold them for $8 each if you bought a fruit basket, and like his prices haven't gone up. He's very rock hard to his morals and decisions, and that's probably what played into his decision to close the GoFundMe, or to, I guess, mention that he doesn't want to accept the donations. But I still don't think that this is like a sad thing. I think it was still a very positive thing on the community, and it showed that people were willing to help the people who are deserving of the help.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't actually have to cancel it if they didn't want to, because in his blog post, he actually said that if they wanted to, they could have just kept running it just as a charity raffle. And I feel kind of in a way that Grey Chillstep had that prerogative, really, if they were going to continue to run it or not, because they still could have raised an incredible amount of money for something, and put the community, our mechanical keyboards, for example, or even just mechanical keyboards in general, to that effort, which we've seen in the past. Of course, money donated to hospitals, money donated to, for example, even my own fundraising for Movember, and so on and so forth. But because the original purpose and intent of that GoFundMe had changed, they decided to not follow through, which is perfectly fine. There's no issue with that whatsoever either. But I'm really glad and I'm really happy that we do have such an amazing community. And we know from Reddit and Reddit statistics, for example, we are, what was it, like the fourth most positive subreddit or something like that at one point.
We are very positive subreddit.
Very, very positive. And the community generosity continues in little ways too. And very recently there was actually a post that we can see over, for example, over here, where it was done 4 days ago by Rageface about generosity in the community, and things like this is fantastic to see. And we're constantly also seeing a lot of little giveaways from a lot of people, just a cap here, or, a wrist rest there, or something that they produced, it's just their way of saying thank you for all the support, because everybody who wants to get involved and do something, most part, gets the support from the community, either through constructive feedback and criticism on the quality of their work, or what they can do to improve it, as well as guys just giving them suggestions on what they'd like to see next, right, and ways that they can improve and further develop, and so on and so forth. So it's really fantastic that this continues to happen, and of course we would love to be able to see that continue to grow even further.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, there's always giveaways on Mech Market. There's literally one right now by Dajatsai. Oh my god, is that Chinese?
I have no idea.
No.
Now, man, that's a really bad snack.
That's Chinese though. Okay, so I'll hit two topics really quick that I experience this week that I played around with.
Yeah, of
So I
course.
went back to my recycler in my local area, and I came up with nothing special, but I got one of those keyboards that have like the huge keys, like the 4x4 keys
Oh,
that
okay. Yep.
are that are flat and they're really random colors. And I saw that it was Alps mount. They weren't actually Alps, but because they sell me the keyboards for $1, I figured I'd get it anyways. And I desoldered the switches, and they're clicky Alps. They're probably like I rated them at like similar to MX Black's weights, and they're like Alps clones, but with the same solder points. I guess the solder locations are the same. So that was cool. I got that. Nothing else very impressive though. And what I've realized is I'm having a lot of trouble finding MX boards and just like Cherry compatible keyboards. All I'm getting is Alps. It's like ridiculous. I just really want an OG Cherry board, and I haven't had any luck yet. So I'm gonna keep looking for that. That's definitely my my unicorn right now. I'm really interested in a G80 5000 or a nice quality ANSI G80 1800. So I'm gonna keep looking for those.
Do you
And
think
yeah,
there's any particular reason why you're not seeing MX compatible keyboards in the e-cycling scene?
I think that the biggest reason would be the fact that I think cherry boards are a lot more common in Europe than the United States.
Okay.
And that would be my biggest guess. And then the next guess would be because maybe that they're like a different time period. Maybe I'm only getting boards from like a specific time period, which I think is like 90 to 2000 or like 95 to 2000. And I think maybe some of the nicer OG cherry boards are before that time period.
But is that like because they've already been recycled or destroyed, or because people actually know what they might inherently be worth because they've been, checking on the internet kind of thing and then selling them through other means?
If it could be. It could also be that cherry boards, they're just less produced than I like would have anticipated.
Or even, as strangely as this is, because mechanical keyboards are so reliable, they're actually still in service and people aren't chucking them out.
So what you're saying is Alps boards have very low. They're not very.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't mean it in that sense, but okay. So put it this way, right? Every year, in the modern sense of the word, or every 2 years, Apple releases a new phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens to all those old phones?
They offer trade-ins and then they salvage the parts. Oh, shit, I just dropped something.
So in the same sense, right? Because like we know the Apple Extended Keyboard 2, for example, has some nice switches in it that are quite often sought after. In that same sense, if they're always producing and updating models, you're going to have a higher rate of items that are being cycled out, right? And they get recycled. So, but when you have a company that might be making a lower number of revisions and products because their products are much more reliable, much more sort of small revisions, not major revisions, there's probably that opportunity that, well, not opportunity, but the situation, the scenario that they aren't actually disposing of them because they're like, well, it's only a minor revision. It's not actually worthwhile me upgrading to the next version of that keyboard because it doesn't actually offer me anything better or, worthwhile. And therefore, these keyboards remain in service for a significantly longer period of time. Do you think that's possible?
I think that's possible. Also, one thing that I've been thinking about a lot. So I have a friend who works at like a government contractor kind of place, and they do like computer. They do like code for like big systems and stuff for like the government, but they're not. This is a common trend I've been seeing. Is they're not able to. They have to like destroy the boards after they're done with them. Like it's ridiculous, but that's just protocol. And I think that a lot of the cherry boards were used with like server stuff, which could be a little bit like higher end industries.
Mm-hmm.
And that they more of them have been, if once they're done, they either go into storage or they're like destroyed.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because I mean I work in the defense industry, and a lot of equipment that is disposed of is actually destroyed, and it's really sad to see because you know a lot of that stuff has potential for salvage, but it literally gets put into a big shredding machine and just gets turned into scrap. And some of it's because of its security, others is because of contractual requirements, and you know things like that. I actually heard this, and I can't remember who it was, but someone had said to me that keyboards had to be destroyed with computers because there was the risk and fear that the keyboards would retain traces of the information that had been inputted into them into computers. And I like face palmed, and I was like, I can understand if that was like now being a concern, like a modern. Yeah, you literally could have an OEM that could specifically design a keyboard to have a keylogger on board, right? But like 50 years ago, sure, it might be possible even back then, but it was very unlikely. The landscape of, you know, computer data hacking espionage still existed, but not at that level or depth. And so I was just like, the thought of that, you know, you could have, say, a vendor like Dell or HP deliberately producing keyboards that would log sensitive data being tendered to government agencies for them to repossess this equipment and then go, hey, we're going to go through like 6,000 keyboards and take all of the data that's been put through these keyboards and then try and glean something out of it. But, you know, that was what somebody actually told me about why, you know, keyboards get destroyed with PCs.
I mean, it's like these businesses, they can't take chances. Like it's just not even relevant to them. And the like the business investments of buying these computer systems is not always like, it's not the biggest cost to them. So destroying them doesn't really matter.
No, it's true. But at the same time, a lot of the companies just do leasing plans too, right? So, you know, every 3 years we get a new machine and they just hand the stuff back. And then, of course, well, if that's the case, there's always that risk that their data's going to get stolen via those keyboards.
Yeah, I'm going to keep scrounging the internet for any sort of like OG cherry boards. That's like my next bet because the recycler isn't turning up cherry stuff. Feels bad, man.
Feels bad.
Never give up.
Never give
And
up.
okay, so I did another thing this week. There's a user he's from my area. He goes to school at the same place I go to school. His name's Laugh at Pain. He has a huge collection. And I met up with him and I showed him that that Alps yellow audio terminal board I found at the electronics recycler in Los Angeles. And he brought his LZFE, which is a pretty cool board. And he actually had put brown Alps in the board, which is the first time I was able to try brown Alps. And they are very similar to Topra from my perspective. I've used an FC660C and an HHKB, and I thought this board was the closest thing in any switch that wasn't Topra to Topra so far. The bump's like right at the top, and then it just drops out and goes linear. So, yep. Quakems is right. They are pretty similar. But people say that the neon green Alps are even closer. So I'm sure I'll eventually get a chance to try those out. Maybe next time I see Chuckling and Comiquat in California meetup. But then I'll make sure to update you guys on that.
So it's interesting you mentioned neon green because somebody in one of the Slacks said this week gone by that they actually have a lead on potentially like 300 brand new, never used neon green Alps.
Holy shit, dude. It's like the holy grail of keyboards.
And as soon as they said that in the Slack, like 6 people came on and was just like, we want. And it was like, well, that brought all these people out of the woodwork.
Yeah,
So,
everybody's like popping out of the cupboards, like, hello, hello, neon green.
so I don't know what has happened to that lead. I'm obviously not mentioning names or what Slack that was involved in, because I don't want them to have issues. But I thought I'd mention that simply because it actually was topical. But good luck to that lead, and if it does happen, then I'm sure we're going to see some stuff turn up as well in regards to that.
We should just say it's like a random person and then get them like a bunch of yeah.
Who wants their inbox to die about
Yeah, Jay Godinez
now?
302.
No,
Okay.
that would not be nice at all.
Uh, there's one other keyboard that he showed me, which I wanted to mention. He showed me his TGR Jane, which is people love that keyboard, and it's pretty sought after, and I liked it a lot. It's pretty solid.
It's a very solid. It's a TKL, isn't it?
Yeah, and it has the win keyless blockers, or his did, but it had different options. There was the LE version, which was like the first run, and then they did a second run. And there's like very limited numbers of them. I think I want to say it's like 20 or 30 in existence. I wasn't sure which version his was, but they have a weight, and they're just overall a pretty cool keyboard.
Okay.
Something like $700 to like $1,000 for one right now.
Yeah, but the TGR Janie is really kind of like the grandma to a lot of these CNC'd TKL form factors, right?
Yeah, it's very similar to the Mech 27, but it itself was influenced by the OTD boards for the most part.
Okay.
So, but it's like the first one that was like modern, and it was made outside of Korea because Yuxi made it
Mm-hmm.
on Geekhack. That's the username. Makes some pretty cool boards. Oh, another board which came up this week, which isn't on our list, but Liku is doing a 75%, which is different than other 75% because the function keys on the top row have a half key space in between them, which gives the keyboard a pretty interesting look compared to most 75% because most of them are just a wall of keys. But because he spaced them, it changes it a lot, and I like it, but it's only coming in acrylic cases. But I can vouch for Liku's PCBs as being very easy to program and work with, and they feel very high quality. So if you're interested in a 75% acrylic kit, you should check those out.
But it wouldn't stop somebody from developing an aluminium, right, to fit it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the case from Yuxi's or from the TX75 like was exactly compatible with it, and he's just selling this one as acrylic, but I bet the mounting is the exact same, and I bet you could find other 75% that could work with it too.
Well, I mean, or you could just design it from scratch. For example, like how Norbauer has gone and done his one to suit the Nova Touch, that kind of thing. So.
And it suits the Cooler Master boards too. It suits multiple ones.
The master keys.
Yeah, that's the most impressive part about that project, I think.
Oh, it's just good engineering and design, I suppose, as long as you've got the right data to work off. So.
Yeah, I mean that requires a lot of precision, matching up multiple designs.
Yeah.
The Liku board, which I mentioned, is called. You can find it on Mech Market, but it's called the 75SQ.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, while we're actually we have kind of talked through top ray and domes, as well as the Nova Touch and so forth. This is a question that I've asked, kind of like in some smaller discussions elsewhere, but why hasn't anybody actually made custom top row springs? Because everyone's out there hunting about domes and doing dome swaps, but they're not really going for spring swaps like you find with the MX switches, right? Because we've got gold plated springs, you got like anywhere up to like 150, 180, 210 grams. is there a particular reason why the top row springs haven't really seen the same level of interest? I don't know.
So, are you talking about the conical springs inside, or are you considering something like the spacebar
No,
weight
no, no.
spring?
I'm talking about the conical spring, the one that actually provides the capacitance change.
Hmm. I think so. When people swap the domes, I think they like that contributes to the feel of it. And I think I've heard people mention that when they go up in weight, but they don't change the domes just drop out and they're less tactile.
Yeah. So J Nice Miz has said that J Chain is actually doing some prototypes of them, 55-gram springs. But Armando has also made the very valid point in that wouldn't it ruin the feel? Because primarily right now the top row feel is the collapse of the dome. But if you now have springs that are actually firmer than the actual dome, would that not just turn into a linear top row feel? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
I think it could.
but for those who love linears, well, why would you go to a top row then and pay for the benefits of a top row keyboard if you're just going to end up with a linear feel, right? So there's really no advantage in that sense.
So I like linear, but what I found with Topro was like it's like the keys are just so solid. Like they just go up and down with like no wiggle, and there's something about it like they're just so much more solid than MX switches, and MX switches feel pretty flimsy compared to them. So if I could have linear Topra, it wouldn't even be that bad. There's reasons why I would want it.
Well, I think the reason why there's such stability is because the actual slider housing is so huge, right, compared to this much smaller footprint of the MX switch.
Yeah, I think the MX switch. I mean, there's a reason for it, which I don't understand, but I'm sure there's a bunch of reasons for it.
I'm sure there would be too.
But there's I'm sure it just seems like it's not the tightest tolerances, and just
Well,
everything about it is like it's not meant to be like this utility up down movement. It's supposed to be a little bit flimsier.
well, it could be specifically designed failure, um, so that they do eventually wear, or maybe part of the reason why it has such longevity is because it isn't so tight. I would anticipate that something that has very tight tolerances is going to be more prone to wear, and therefore you will actually feel a greater sense of degradation as that stem gets looser and wiggles more over time. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
But who knows? Unless, of course, anyone can get hold of one of the original designers that we can talk to, then that would be pretty sweet. That would be very, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've really only got, I think, what, two things left, as well as our usual The Board podcast keycap giveaway. How do we do on that?
Um, let's do the last two topics and then we'll do it at the end.
All right. So the first one that I'm going to say out of the two that we kind of got remaining is I want to talk about resin keycaps. So there's been a bit of pitchforking again this week, and it's in relation to the latest round of keys from Jelly Keys. Now, yeah, without getting too bogged in finger pointing and anything like that, a particular user actually posted one of their caps that the stem had snapped off. There was a lot of commentary, and I don't really want to get too heavy into that aspect of it, but I think people kind of miss the point in that resin keycaps have very inherently different properties to polyurethanes, plastics, because resin inherently is a brittle medium. It's a hard medium, but it's brittle. You can, if you hit it the wrong way, it's just going to shear and cleave right off. And then resins also suffer different defects in it from production as well as environmental effects. So moistures will affect resins. UV will affect resins differently compared to other plastics. And we don't know exactly what happened to cause that stem to split. And Binge from Hungerwork Studios actually wrote a really good post about tolerances, because tolerances make a very big difference in regards to how stems fit. And because resin's a non-flexible medium when you get into some of the much harder ones that are often used for the bright sheen and luster and polish, it means when you actually put that on a stem, if the tolerance is really, really snug and it's brittle, it has no flex to give when it's being used or when it's being inserted or taken off, and therefore it can lead to fracturing, cracks, and then of course finally breaking. So it's one of those things that's really tricky, because it's a medium that you work with, so you can get some amazing results, particular look and style, but it has inherent properties that you have to understand and be able to control or design your way around it. Now, if I pose this question to you, Kevin, and of course also to our live stream listeners, would you rather have a keycap that fits straight away out, snug, perfectly, and holds tight and firm, that comes with a risk of the stem breaking? Or would you prefer the stem to be slightly, potentially loose, that you could bulk up yourself through our conventional methods like cling film, or a little bit of like PVA, craft glue, that kind of thing, to hold the keycap firmer on your stems?
I don't know. There's something very satisfying about having the key not being able to fall off on its own. When I was making artisans, I had an inherent problem of the stems being too loose, and a lot of my really good-looking keys I couldn't sell because they were fitting too loose, and I just didn't want to sell them as requiring some sort of like a cling wrap kind of thing to buffer the stem to make it fit tighter.
Sure.
But I mean, I'm fine with them fitting loose and then using the plastic, but I'd probably prefer it tighter fitting, ideally not breaking. So I think bro caps, I'm a big fan of bro caps here. He makes his stem super thick. I think there's like a lot of merit to that, because I don't think I've ever seen a picture of bro caps stems cracking, the thick ones at least. Yeah, Don, you should draw out the bro cap stem while you're at it.
Is that the square one?
Yeah. Man, this drawing stuff, this is fantastic.
It's like this, isn't it?
Which, like the left one you're drawing?
Left one? What?
Wait. Which maybe the stream I'm looking at's delayed?
Oh yeah, it'd be delayed by like 20 seconds or something like that, I think.
Okay, so I haven't seen your drawing yet, but yeah, it's a square with like the crucifix thing in the middle.
Okay.
Yes. There's actually recently in one of the threads, I think it was the one about jellyfish stems breaking, the one that you are referencing.
Mm-hmm.
Binge went in and responded with a lot of insights, which
that's what I just mentioned. That's literally what I just talked about.
Oh, I missed it. I don't know. I was distracted. But yeah, he mentions a lot of interesting things.
Oh, the comments. What angle is Kevin watching the show from? The lag is real. Well, it's not lag. It's actually stream delay. So yeah, because obviously the video feed stream, Kevin's watching as a watcher, whereas I'm watching the actual stream as a streamer. So I don't actually have the delay, whereas you guys get delay. But then Kevin's got live audio to me via Discord. So
I can't watch the stream. This is confusing. I'm like living two different timelines here. They're gonna collide at one point, and then
it's going to be
space-time continuum.
yeah, a podcast singularity is going to occur. Um, all right, so essentially what I want to walk away from this topic with is basically people should be a bit more understanding and forgiving in that resins have different inherent properties, for one, and two, they are very challenging to work with to get them right. And even though Jelly have made a bucket load of keycaps, from what they've told me, because Jelly have a Discord as well, and I've been talking with some of their guys there, they actually use a whole bunch of different resins to produce the different range of caps that they've got. And as Binge has talked about, mastery of your resins, mastery of your materials, and understanding how they work, because he spoke all about this in his Top Clack episode, is really important, because you can't get amazing results without actually understanding how your resin works. And that's not just about, you know, straight up casting, but it's also about mixing. That's about color and, of course, your physical properties. So they might be finding an unintended emergent property of their keycaps is that the brittleness factor, the ability for it to fracture, might be higher than they anticipate because they didn't, you know, have this in-depth understanding of how the resins interacted with each other. So yeah,
it's so as like an artisan, it's very scary to like switch resins. This, like, once you start using one, you just get comfortable with it, and it's like so hard to switch, in my opinion, at least.
Now on the stream, I'm going to show a bottle, right? Actually, hang on a moment. Just keep talking for a couple of seconds. I have to take my headphones off.
Okay. Yeah. So what should we talk about while Don's not here? Keyboards. Huh.
It's not that hard, seriously.
I don't know. I'm blanking.
You're blanking. Okay, so here's a really good example of understanding and knowing your resins. Okay, so now for the stream people, now obviously if you're in the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this, but the bottle that I'm holding up, this is a polyurethane resin part B, right? Look at its color, look at its translucency, right? It's an amber liquid and it's in a sealed container, a little bit dusty, all right? But this is in its native pure form state. Now, for those who saw my YouTube video ages ago, when I was actually demonstrating how to do a casting of a keycap using the synth, I was using that exact same resin, and that's the stuff that turns white. Now, the part A is a clear liquid, right? The clear liquid, in the same time frame, because I use dispensing bottles to deal with it rather than the whole big bottles, this is the part A in the dispensing bottle, and it has stayed clear, inherently clear, right? The part B, which I've just shown you before, the one that's in the sealed bottle, in my dispensing bottle, looks like this. Now, for those guys who are actually watching the video, of course you're on delay, so you're not going to see it for like 20-30 seconds or whatever the delay is. This is a significantly different product because even though I have it in a dispensing bottle, it actually has exposure to the environment. It has exposure to moisture in the air. It has much more exposure in that dispensing bottle than in the sealed bottle. And it's actually been crystallizing in my dispensing bottle. And what I've also found, and this is something that, once again, Binge talked about in his episode on Top Clack, about your environmental conditions are a huge killer. Like, he runs an air conditioner in his garage to try and dehumidify because the humidity messes with your resins. And it's done that inside my dispensing bottle. So all of that light yellow foggy stuff is water that's actually been absorbed by my resin in the last like 6 months. And you know what? When I tried casting with that, the water comes out of the keycap when it's curing, but because it's curing at such a high temperature that it self-generates, it turns into vapor and you get massive bubbles. You get massive Rice Krispies, even more than if it was just a humid day. And essentially, now that entire bottle of Part B is not very useful for doing stuff that you want to be bubble free. So anybody who's working with resins, anyone who's an aspiring cap maker or artisan maker, you need to really get a great grasp on the materials you're working with. So, yeah, just thought I'd show some of my own materials and experiences.
Yeah, if you leave a bottle of resin open, get wrecked, mate.
Well, that's not even open, but it's just inherent leaking through the actual bottle. It's obviously not as good a seal compared to the factory bottles that are used to actually transport these materials. So, yeah. Now,
Don, one other thing which I want to hit you with is, what do you think about the Skog keyboard? SKOG.
It's a heavy keyboard. I know that there have been some people who've kind of were questioning the price because of the weight options on it. Well, what can I say? It's a TKL, so it natively isn't super appealing to me. Just only because, I'm a full-size kind of guy for numpad. Love my numpad. But it's not the first time that keyboard's been around, is it? I swear I've seen that sort of...
I heard some talk about this, but I actually don't know how true it is. But I think this is made by somebody named Percent. Yeah, and I'm not going to comment because I'm very unsure, but the weight is cool. 8.8 pounds with the brass weight. That's impressive.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean, that's a lot of weight in it. Certainly not as heavy as the 14-pound concrete keyboard, but I'm also not a massive fan of super heavy keyboards, simply because in some sense I feel that's kind of excessive to a certain degree. I haven't played with one in person, so I don't actually know 100%, and the way that it would affect the sound as well, because obviously your case makes a big difference in regards to the echo and the reverb and so on and so forth. So, but if someone brings one to a meet, that would be pretty good.
See, I'm still waiting on a keyboard that's going to be over 10 pounds, so...
You can make one. You can design it, right?
That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah. That'd be the easiest option at this point.
All right. Well, so we're kind of going a bit over our normal length, but of course, this is a special episode anyway, so you'll have to forgive us and hang in there. The last actual sort of scheduled topic that we've got is related to market and sales. So Mendez has just said, nah, we can never have enough weight. Well, there you go, boys. Start piling on the pounds. So let's get some depleted uranium cases, shall we? That'd be pretty awesome. Or maybe just some lead or tungsten. Tungsten cases would be pretty cool. But tungsten's brittle, very brittle. I digress. So there was a bit of a discussion the other day on Mech Market relating... Well, it wasn't. I don't think it was actually on Mech Market, but it was about Mech Market, which is, at what point do you stop slapping on cost on something that's a brand new in box? So the scenario was a person wanted to buy a keyboard, a person was selling a keyboard, and the person said, I have a brand new in box, it was bought from Mass Drop, this is how much I paid for it to get to me, I'm selling it for this price plus shipping to whoever buys it. And there was a bit of debate about, well, that's acceptable because obviously, they've paid it up to this point, and for it to be transited to you, then, you would pay that that shipping. Other people said, well, you know, like he should take the hit because of the fact that he's made the choice and is deciding not to keep it. Because realistically, then, you know, if you'd actually bought it yourself, you wouldn't have had to pay that extra shipping charge, so on and so forth. What do you think, Kevin?
I just think whatever people are willing to pay for it. It depends on the board. If it's a board that they had to wait for a really long time, there's not going to be any more, and it's obviously going to be able to ask for that extra price. But if it's like a poker that you can get on Amazon in 2 days for the same price or less, then nobody's going to buy it. Well, unless they do live in a country where they can't order it and they have to buy it from Mech Market, and then that's their best option.
Well, I suppose so. Personally, I don't have a problem with them asking for the additional shipping cost if it was in a country that was really hard to get. And it's just like you're saying, right? Especially if it's going to go to another country, whereas if it's domestic, then I would probably say, you know, you should take the hit because you are technically selling a second-hand good, even if it's brand new in the box. The user might be the first person to use it, but technically the original owner is somebody else, especially if there's receipts and invoices involved. So that's one aspect that you kind of have to take into consideration, at least for me. Okay. What do our listeners think? What do our audience think? Brand new in box plus shipping, or brand new in box and take the hit? Well, we got that delay happening. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, before they.
So
actually
we'll
respond.
see our response in 20 seconds.
I actually don't know what the delay is. I'm just kind of guessing that it is like.
I think it's over 20 seconds based on like how far behind I feel when I look at your drawings. It's pretty like creepy. I don't know. It's just very confusing.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
Have you got much planned for the weekend?
Just a lot of homework. I have a big quiz on Monday about industrial sales stuff.
Industrial sales. Okay.
It's like a support course I have to take.
Ah.
I am not a salesman. I'm not. It's just weird how you just sell something.
So Joseph says he needs a cast iron TKL, and Amoxdeus says that comes down to the idea between tracking owners and calculating added shipping, just selling at current market value. You really should just sell at market value. Armando says shipping, and he's saying that as a third country guy trying to sell stuff, international shipping should be paid. So yeah, that kind of supports in what I'm saying, because you know, obviously, if you're in another country, it can be pretty difficult to get stuff, and they shouldn't have to bear the cost, especially if it's very expensive. Like I had my Leopold shipped to me from Singapore, and it was like $58 for shipping, which is crazy. But you know, that's just how it is. If you want it, then you gotta pay those shipping costs.
The reason why I thought about the third world country thing is because I recently, in the class discussion we had today, talked about a startup which is like I forget the name of it. It's called like Backpack or something, and if you're flying to a country, you like offer to buy an item and then transport it to the next country for buyers in that country which aren't able to buy it in that country, and then you hand it off to somebody who works for the company at the airport to like cut airport or to cut import fees and
so
allow people
basically
in those
you're
countries.
a mule.
Yeah, but they like pay you a small fee, and it's if you're flying there anyways for like a trip.
Yeah,
you just make a
that's
quick
like
buck.
that's like how cartels smuggle drugs into the country, right? They use mules.
But this is like legal.
Well, to a certain extent, sure.
I mean, they're like they've done like seed rounds. They're like a legit startup. Like they haven't hit issues yet.
Yeah, so essentially you're muling products to beat import taxes. That's
I don't know if
actually
it's necessarily import tax or if it's more of like not able to
logistics.
buy the items in that country yet. They
Yeah.
didn't sell it as like beating the cost. They sold it like when they were explaining it to us, it was about the allowing people in countries where they're not sold or not sold yet to purchase the items.
Well, I suppose that's one way of doing distribution. But it seems a little bit shady, though.
Yeah,
Just
I mean, I
saying.
could see how. I'm sure they're going to have a lawsuit eventually.
Well, just make sure you're not terribly involved in it, whenever that might come
Yeah,
down
I mean,
in,
I'm
in
not.
play.
All I did was hear about it, but I mean, everybody has lawsuits nowadays.
I haven't had one, and I don't want to have one. So,
All the big tech companies are just like always suing each other.
well, it's a good thing I'm not a tech company. So Amoxidase is continuing on, and is saying that it comes down to a matter of people buying artisans to flip versus people trying to support the community, keeping prices fair. Fair argument would be set price by how many people own the item plus the shipping cost moved around. And the market argument would set the price by how many people, well, how much people would pay, and that's free market, which leads to flipping. Yes, it is, and of course, especially in our community, it makes it very difficult to control. Of course, there are people who are doing things to try and reduce the flipping by either producing larger volumes, so demand is not as much an issue, as well as, I suppose, just keeping track of those who are actually flipping and refusing to sell to them. Which,
Man, I'm experiencing this right now trying to sell this fugu. Like, I bought it for my friend as like a to help him out because he needed something else from me for $48, and I can't sell it for $45. Prismatic fugus are just their very bottom line price.
well, maybe someone will come along and find it from you soon.
Yeah,
Well,
fingers crossed. I really wanted to ship it this weekend, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
yeah. Well, we've pretty much covered what we were going to talk about, and I guess we are more than happy to actually open the floor, I suppose, to our listeners, um, to well, sorry, to our viewers. I keep referring to listeners because it's habit, right? Simply because we are primarily a podcast medium as opposed to a live stream or a broadcast medium through video. But for those who are actually still here, thank you very much for hanging through. It's actually been pretty cool having you guys on. There's actually been approximately 12 people watching like this entire time, but there's only been like 4 or 5 people talking. So I do really want to encourage those guys who are lurking that we would love to hear your comments. We would love to read your comments, hear your comments, um, and interact with you. So please, please, please don't be shy. You know, even if you just say hello, that would be fantastic as well. So we've got a couple of minutes. We'll at the moment we're running at around an hour 20 thereabouts. So you know we've got 10 minutes to play with. We'll round it off to a nice 90 minutes before we sort of decide to end this stream. So yeah. Throw some questions or topics that you might want to maybe get our opinion, or maybe if you want a new picture because you know all I've got here is just a piece of birthday cake. So yeah, nothing. Bueller.
The delay.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I'm gonna do some sound shenanigans here. So what you're actually gonna hear is I got a little switch tester. Now, I'm kind of sad because I lent my switch tester to somebody locally in Sydney, and I don't know what's happened to them, but my switch tester's kind of potentially never coming back to me. Now,
What? Did you meet with them in person?
I met with them in person to lend them the switch tester. They used it and they went and bought an And Pro. And then they gave me 2 months of Reddit Gold, and then they were going to meet up with me, but then since then, none of my communications with them have actually resulted in a response from them.
They jacked your Switch tester.
Now,
That's so savage.
now
They met you in person.
now, once again, I've said this before. I don't want to put shade on him because he could have reason for it, and he hasn't been active on Reddit because I have been checking his account. So, life gets in the way. So he might not have deliberately done it. It just may have just been something that's happened. But there's no real loss because there's no switches on it that are terribly unique, thankfully, except for the Zelio because it's the only Zelio I've got. But I'm kind of sad because it was actually my Secret Santa gift from last year. Now, of course, I've actually had some other switches come my way. So I've actually got a vintage black, thanks to Jolly Green Giant, which is pretty cool because I can actually feel the difference in a vintage black to a standard black. Now, I'm going to hold this up to the microphone, and you probably can't hear it because it's a linear, but we'll try. Is that actually no?
I can hear it.
You can hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
coming through.
So that's the vintage black. Now here is a Fozen. So that's the Fozen Aquamarine, the original first generation. And then I actually have an Aristotle. So in its original housing, because it's a really weird looking housing compared to normal other switches. So here's the Aristotle.
Oh yeah, that sounds way harder than the other one.
So, and to compare that against, so this is a Cherry MX Green, the Aristotle, and the Fozen.
I feel like I hear the scratchiness in the Frozen.
And of course, if you really want quality, here is the Razer Fluoro Green. Oh. That was the Razer Green. So, a whole board of clickies except for the vintage. Now, JNiceMZ got in the GSX 98 group buy on Taobao. It's supposed to ship in the next week or two. Only $96 for high profile cases. Oh. Well, cool bananas. What can I say? I don't actually have that much finances because of my current situation. A lot of my finances go into living in Sydney, and anybody who lives in Sydney knows exactly how expensive life is in Sydney. Of course, my wife currently isn't working because we've got a little baby, and my wife is full-time mum. So I look at group buys and I drool. So I of course will wait and see what people put up and discuss, I guess, at that point. Now, Mendez is asking, what mouse are you currently using? What mouse are you currently using, Kevin?
I'm using the Corsair M45.
Corsair
It's like
M45.
and
Okay.
it's like kind of a gaming one, but it's comfortable. I did try a SteelSeries Rival a really long time ago though, and I thought it was incredibly comfortable, but I couldn't justify buying a second mouse. So that one was really cool. Yeah, it's the SteelSeries Rival. I thought it was really comfortable on my hand. I tried it in a store.
Okay. Hi, Brian Thomas Smith. What's up? Thank you for catching us on the live stream. We are sort of kind of towards the tail end and starting to wrap up a bit with a bit of community interaction here. So you can, of course, always check out this live stream video as an archived after the show anyway. Now, for me, what I'm using is this very old school. It's a little bit dirty, bit gory. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 GX9. So it's pretty old. Some of the actual sort of rubber and foam and whatnot on it's coming off, and yeah, it also double clicks sometimes. I've actually been meaning to replace it for about a year now, and kind of haven't, because I've been spending all my money on keyboards. So I don't play games competitively, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It is a little bit annoying though if it does double click when you don't mean to double click, and for work purposes it's also annoying because sometimes it double clicks when you don't mean to double click. Should I get a new mouse? Yes. When am I going to get a new mouse? I don't know. What I should get, I also don't know. Worst case scenario, I do have a spare. It's a Microsoft mouse.
I just spaced out, but when I talked about my mouse, was my mic muted?
No, you talked about
Okay.
the Steel series.
Okay, yeah, okay. Good. I just totally I don't know what's happening today. I'm pretty lagging.
Now, Mendez has just said that he had the Modern Warfare Logitech brand board that matched, and I actually have that same keyboard too, because I bought it from Catch of the Day for $65 plus shipping. Now, that rubber dome keyboard, that Logitech keyboard that was the MW3 one, is actually my baby's keyboard now. She has it. It's like in her playpen, and she basically beats the living daylights out of it and drools on it and steps on it and falls on it, and that's her keyboard. So yeah, that's where my one is. So there seems to be some discussion on that. M705 and a G502, Logitech G3 with a not happy face there. Holy moly, classic. Used one of those in Team Fortress 2 days. Yeah, it's definitely getting on. So, all right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming along and joining us on the live stream. And of course, if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm sorry that you weren't able to actually join us for the live stream. Hopefully, you've kind of enjoyed our discussion this week, as per usual. Oh yes, Kevin, are you still spacing out?
I'm here. Focus.
Keycap.
Yeah, keycap giveaway. So this week, I don't know if we'll do this bi-weekly or 2-weekly, but I just want to keep it simple this week. No quiz questions or anything. I just want you to send me a picture of your favorite keyboard, your favorite dream keyboard. You don't have to own it, but you can own it. It could be your holy grail or just your most comfortable one or your daily driver that you're in love with. And just, send me the name of it, send me some information on it, and send me a picture of it on Reddit. My username is u/theSirCheddar, all one words, and cheddar is AR.
Okay. And yeah, you can have a The Board podcast keycap.
Yep.
Well, you wished you had joined earlier. This was entertaining. Thank you for doing this. No, thank you very much for checking us out, coming along, having a good time. And hopefully, you'll be able to keep listening to our podcasts and enjoying them as well as they come along. And of course, our YouTube content as we keep producing and putting up stuff. And hopefully, we'll be able to keep entertaining you for a long time to come. Yeah, so I think are we there yet? No, not quite. We've got about a minute and a half. Yeah.
We should do a thing where we each draw a picture of each other, Don.
Well, I've got a drawing thing here, but I don't know about you. How you're going to be able to do that.
Well, we got to save it for the next episode. I am not in the condition to draw anything.
All right. Well, I also don't have any pens that can draw blonde, so yeah, that might be a bit challenging. Blonde highlighters don't really work very well. Brian Thomas Smith says, a couple of weeks back, I was looking for you, the search header, instead of you, the search header.
The search header?
No,
okay, it's
the search header. Oh, dear.
Oh, God. Okay, it's spelling is U/THESIRCHEDDAR.
There you go, spelt out. We're not going to bother doing it in NATO, but yeah, Think of the cheese. Think of the cheese. All right. Well, I think we've had a good fun. Once again, thank you everyone for coming along. Thank you, Kevin, for spending your Saturday early morning with me, and everybody else. And yeah, so for those who actually had asked at the start of the episode, I did actually draw a birthday cake, and of course there was a slice of cake there. And the reason why I drew the cake was because it's actually my birthday today. So and I thought I wanted to have a bit of fun, just for my birthday to have a good time with you all. So thank you very much for being the first ones to actually celebrate my birthday with me in the wee hours of Sunday morning here in Australia. Getting old. All right. Now, before I actually find the buttons and everything else to end this live stream, and of course my usual catchphrase. I've got too many windows open actually at the moment. Okay, I think that's the one that I'm going to be using over there. All right. So yeah. Couple of weeks, hopefully we'll hit 500 subscribers and we'll do another giveaway. And when we do that giveaway, we'll also probably do another live stream as well, just to keep everything honest. And of course, if you are the winner of today's giveaway, I'm sorry, I've actually completely forgotten your name.
ZMB,
something like that. You'll know obviously when you listen or see this video, but please get in contact with me and I'll get that keycap to you. So, until next week, and until next time, as always, happy clacking.